Now 30 seconds has passed. 30 seconds has passed. You have 3 minutes to learn the words. If you haven't already learned them. I feel so insecure with you sitting all far away from me. Now later I will be standing right here.
What?
老师，哎，走下台的，演唱会不是都走下台握手 Now you have 1 minute and a half minute, 90 seconds. So I'm dividing the whole class into 2 teams, okay, into 2 teams. You can leave your textbook open. So now, I'm going to give you some clue, okay? And you can raise your hand to give me the answer. Okay, each answer is the vocabulary in lesson 8. So question 1, give me a subject that is related to human body, a subject. What's the word? Tumor. Good. You get 1 apple for your team. Okay. Next one. Give me a color. The color is a combination of color and team. Oh, brown. That's great. You are still okay. Team orange. Okay. Tell me. How about team blue? Blue 两边都有. How about team? You are black because there is 1 black. Okay. Team black and team orange. Okay, you are team orange. You are team black. Okay, and team orange got 2 points, right? Yeah. You got 2 apples. Okay. If you are an offspring of somebody, you are a
Descendant.
Yeah, descendant. Okay, another orange right here. Okay, now you are going to remember your own apple. 等一下我问你们自己得几分，因为我不想要一直那个没多种。Next one. Tell me, you reproduce something that is exactly the same. Clone, you get it. 然后同学，你们实在太棒了，因为你们举手，然后都 silent。你知道我的班级他举手 ，clone， 我根本不会等老师叫，谁先讲谁先赢。Okay, next one. If you agree somebody to do something, you
Consent.
good, you get it. Okay, next one. In the end, give me the synonym, the word. Ultimately, you get it. Okay, now let's raise the difficulty of the game. After you say ultimately, you have to spell it. OK， 那一拼出来的时候你才得分。所以如果你讲 ultimately， 另外一个人拼出来，哦，你没有得分，没有得分。OK, next one. If you start, you
Expire.
EXPIRE.
OK, expire 可以 you get it. OK, there's another answer.
HAL.
Good. OK, next one. If you can count something is not
Innumerable.
Wait, if you can count something is not innumerable. It's not
Finite.
Something is not finite. That's right. Very good. And the opposite of finite is infinite. 有点口齿不清哎，好。再一次 ，spell it. That's great. And 他拼得很慢，对不对？那事实上别人就可以抢，然后把分数降过去。Okay, next one. How about the last one? Right now we are suffering the COVID-19, and we need to develop something to save us.
BACCIE.
Okay, how about just one more? Oh, something is so impressive. Something is
SPECTACULAR.
Okay, that's correct. 这游戏太晚了。One more. Under. Give me the synonym of under.
Beneath.
BNTH.
Ooh, okay, very good. Okay, next one. If you are a teacher, but I don't want to call you a teacher, I can also call you a N.
Instructor. INSTRUCTOR.
Very good. Okay, 这游戏太晚了。再一个。Okay, what am I doing? 同时 okay, both of you. Okay, now, if something is fatal, it will cause death. Something is oh, 它会有 deadly. 非常英国女王感觉。Okay, next one. You are angry. You.
Fume. FUME.
啊对，但是它念 fume， 你念 fan。Fume. Okay, everybody repeat fume. Repeat after me. Fume. Okay, now 进入小字的部分了。Okay, 小字的部分。So, tell me, there are two books in the 小字的部分。Give me the two books, two magazines. The name of the magazines. Give me the name of the magazines. Ebony and Jet. You get it? Okay, both. 2 points. If you do something forever, give me forever. You are doing something. You get it. For good. Okay, now I believe that you are good at doing experiments, right? Because you are the science talented class. So tell me, there is something that we use in the laboratory called
Petri dish.
very good, Petri dish, very good. Okay, what does culture mean? Give me the meaning of culture. Culture in Chinese. Directly tell me culture. Whatever meaning you can think of, culture.
文化.
Yeah, Chinese culture, English culture. In this class, in this lesson, culture also has another meaning. What is that? 培养. Okay, like cell culture, right? We can culture cells. Okay, so these are all words you need to know before we play the next game. Okay, so before we get into the reading of lesson 8, I want to familiarize you with the background knowledge about a particular cell called HeLa cells. Do you know HeLa cells? 海拉细胞，知道的举手。What are HeLa cells? You don't know, right? So I'm going to play a TED clip for you to get an understanding about HeLa cells. Before that, I want to add points. 刚刚有得分的，如果举手，不要在你的手上比出你刚讲的角色已经给答案。Orange to you， 举手，不算那两个。太多了是不是？那不然我先把这个影片播下去，你们慢慢算，然后等下告诉我。
阿里单字网。
单字网。
大学单词我。
OK， 我们来看这个 TED。I think HeLa cells are so important. Okay, it helped us make a lot of medical advancements. 开始喽。等一下，我看这影片再告诉我分数。
Imagine something small enough to float on a particle of dust that holds the keys to understanding cancer, virology, and genetics. Luckily for us, such a thing exists in the form of trillions upon trillions of human lab-grown cells called HeLa. Let's take a step back for a second. Scientists grow human cells in the lab to study how they function, understand how diseases develop, and test new treatments without endangering patients. To make sure that they can repeat these experiments over and over, and compare the results with other scientists, they need huge populations of identical cells that can duplicate themselves faithfully for years. But until 1951, all human cell lines that researchers tried to grow had died after a few days. Then a Johns Hopkins scientist named George Guy received a sample of a strange-looking tumor. Dark purple, shiny, jelly-like. This sample was special. Some of its cells just kept dividing and dividing and dividing. When individual cells died, generations of copies took their place and thrived. The result was an endless source of identical cells that's still around today. The very first immortal human cell line. Guy labeled it HeLa, after the patient with the unusual tumor, Henrietta Lacks. Born on a tobacco farm in Virginia, she lived in Baltimore with her husband and 5 children. She died of aggressive cervical cancer a few months after her tumor's cells were harvested, and she never knew about them. So what's so special about the cells from Henrietta Lacks that lets them survive when other cell lines die? The short answer is, we don't entirely know. Normal human cells have built-in control mechanisms. They can divide about 50 times before they self-destruct in a process called apoptosis. This prevents the propagation of genetic errors that creep in after repeated rounds of division. But cancer cells ignore these signals, dividing indefinitely and crowding out normal cells. Still, most cell lines eventually die off, especially outside the human body. Not HeLa though, and that's the part we can't yet explain. Regardless, when Dr. Guy realized he had the first immortal line of human cells, he sent samples to labs all over the world. Soon the world's first cell production facility was churning out 6 trillion HeLa cells a week. And scientists put them to work, in an ethically problematic way, building careers and fortunes off of Henrietta's cells without her or her family's consent, or even knowledge until decades later. The polio epidemic was at its peak in the early 50s. HeLa cells, which easily took up and replicated the virus, allowed Jonas Salk to test his vaccine. They've been used to study diseases including measles, mumps, HIV, and Ebola. We know that human cells have 46 chromosomes because a scientist working with HeLa discovered a chemical that makes chromosomes visible. HeLa cells themselves actually have around 80 highly mutated chromosomes. HeLa cells were the first to be cloned. They've traveled to outer space. Telomerase, an enzyme that helps cancer cells evade destruction by repairing their DNA, was discovered first in HeLa cells. In an interesting turn of fate, thanks to HeLa, we know that cervical cancer can be caused by a virus called HPV, and now there's a vaccine. HeLa-fueled discoveries have filled thousands of scientific papers, and that number is probably even higher than anyone knows. HeLa cells are so resilient that they can travel on almost any surface. A lab worker's hand, a piece of dust, invading cultures of other cells and taking over like weeds. Countless cures, patents, and discoveries, all made thanks to Henrietta Lacks.
So now you have a brief understanding about this very particular cells. Can you tell me anything you know about HeLa cells? Anything? One answer. It's one apple. Okay. You can discuss. What do you know about HeLa cells according to the film? What color is it? What color?
Okay, just get up on that podium. All right, I'm here. That was easy. Now I just need to, oh my gosh! How many people are in the audience?
Oh, this is cute. Yeah. 来，刚刚有算出分数了没？来，这个举手，然后比那个数字给我。这边。15。这边。有15。
就5分吧。
真的吗？你们只有5分吗？总共？
对啊。
就随便讲。
因为阿玲单字嘛。
好，没关系。Okay. We're going to listen to another recording, and this one is very easy, very slow, but it gives you a lot of information about this lesson. But after this listening, I'm going to play another recording, which is very difficult, and that's why I designed a worksheet. Do you get this? So you might not be able to catch all of the difficult one, but you surely can catch the information in the easier version of the recording. Okay, right here. 这前面没来，哦，来，没拿到的。I want you to first turn to page 177 for the easier. 有吗？多的，他们没有。Okay, for the easier version. Okay, 177. So I want you to take out a piece of paper, and write down any information you can remember, okay, for the easier version. so that you can compensate the part that you might not be able to get for the next recording, the next difficult one. Okay? So this is the first recording. It's a listening activity on your textbook on page 177. Let's listen to it.
Beyond the text. More about Henrietta Lacks.
Take notes.
Listen to a passage about Henrietta Lacks and then choose the correct answer to each question.
Henrietta Lacks was born into an African-American family. In 1941, she got married to a tobacco farmer. Raising 5 children was difficult for her and her husband. At the age of 31, Henrietta was diagnosed with terminal cancer of the cervix and sought treatment at the Johns Hopkins Hospital. There, her tissue samples were taken without her knowledge and were sent to medical scientists for research. It was then that scientists found these human cells were the first ever that could survive and reproduce outside the body. Since then, HeLa cells, a code name that was used to hide Henrietta's true identity, have been used to achieve many different revolutions in medicine and biological science. Over the 60 years that have followed the discovery of HeLa cells, a number of people have made huge profits, but Henrietta Lacks' family has not seen a penny of it. None of her family members had even known of the existence of these cells or granted permission for her cells to be harvested. When they were informed of this unauthorized donation, her family was furious. Her daughter worried about whether Henrietta Lacks had experienced a lot of pain when her tissues were removed, and her son complained angrily that priceless as their mother's cells were, he and his family members still couldn't afford health insurance. Thanks to a documentary on Lacks and HeLa aired by the BBC, this case gained public visibility. A science writer named Rebecca Skloot later wrote a book on the subject, and Oprah Winfrey also announced plans to make a film based on this book. At the same time, public criticism also arose, with many people blaming this incident on racism. Finally, at long last, many of the organizations that had made profits from HeLa cells began to recognize publicly Henrietta's contributions to medical research.
Question 1.
What did Henrietta and her husband do for a living?
It's on your textbook. The question on your textbook.
Question 2.
Why did the researchers name Henrietta's cells HeLa cells?
Question 3.
Which of the following did Henrietta's family probably need most?
Question 4.
According to the talk, what did many people end up blaming this incident on?
Okay, I'm going to ask several questions for you, and then you can discuss with your roommates about all the answers. First, did you catch the author who wrote a book based on HeLa cells? Did you catch the author's name? And who announced the film plans? Who announced the film plans regarding HeLa cells? And what are other than books and films, what other works have people done about this topic? One more question is, where do HeLa cells come from? From which woman? What kind of woman?
How many children does she have? Nobody's taking note. These questions, I'm going to leave 1 minute for you to discuss with your roommates, and then so later you can provide these answers. Okay, how many children does this woman have? Okay, discussion, go. And also the answer to the question you can discuss. The answer to the question.
没有，他就是比。就说African
Okay, are you done? So who can tell me anything you know? As long as you have answer. Who's the author? Do you catch the name of the author? Maybe just one word?
Author is Rebecca.
Okay, good. Rebecca is one word. 它还有 Rebecca 什么 ？S 开头没错，叫做 Rebecca Scoot. That's great. Okay, Rebecca Scoot. Wow, you're even. Okay, how about the person who announced the film project?
Oprah Winfrey.
Beautiful, Oprah Winfrey. 你们知道 Oprah 吧？演 Oprah。那事实上，她是Oprah Winfrey，就是演这个 woman 的小女儿。因为这个 woman 死掉的时候，这个她的小女儿才刚出生，是个 baby。Oprah 是演她的小女儿。然后这电影是女儿跟作者之间的故事，就作者想要写一本书关于 Okay, what is this woman's name? The woman's name. Did you catch that? If you haven't, later you can tell me in the next recording. Okay, now who can tell me the answer? How many children does she have? Five. Okay, the answer on your textbook. 直接告诉我这4题的答案。这是你的答案。第一题 C. Okay, what about number 2? Number 2. 猪吗？Number 2好像不是猪啊。A, you get it. A. Okay. Question 3. Question 3. What do they need? A. Yes, financial help. 他们很穷。They need money. Okay, what about 4? Is there? Yes, the racism issue. So I found the trailer of the movie. The trailers are great. 这一部电影呢是 HBO 拍的，类似纪录片的电影，那拍得非常好。但是它的 trailer 拍的又比它的整部更好。
Patient should be referred to as HeLa.
好，那个 trailer 的那个字幕啊，有一点点小错，所以你们尽量用听的测验自己的听力
Patient should be referred to as HeLa. Should not be.
My whole life, what I care about is knowing about my mother. I am tired of wanting to know and hiding.
And hiding.
Digging up graves, you need to stop.
I am not stopping. This hurt ain't nothing compared to my mama. You're famous, just nobody knows it.
So there are 2 trailers. Now I'm playing the other one. I think the trailers are great. Even better than the movie itself.
For years, it seemed like a dream. For years, it seemed like a dream. About our mother, could this be true? What you don't understand is, we didn't know nothing about nothing.
scientists had been trying to get cells to grow outside of the human body, but they would always die. Until Henrietta's cells came along.
I want to write a book about your mother.
Go HeLa, go HeLa. That's my mother.
不是 healer， 翻错了。
是个白人女人。
Everyone's saying Henrietta Lacks donated themselves. She didn't donate nothing. They took them and didn't ask.
The hospital is guilty.
So what's her name?
Somebody's going to pay.
You should be able to.
God wanna have a disease cure, he provides one for himself.
Troubles.
I don't know, Rebecca.
I'm not doing anything behind your back. Henrietta helped develop the AIDS cocktail, chemotherapy treatments.
It's hard not to get caught up in hope when you've been powerless for so long. I know I'm a part of you, and you're a part of me.
So what's her name? Do you catch it? Henrietta Lacks. Yes. Okay. Now, after we have a brief understanding, okay, how about does Henrietta Lacks herself know that her cells were taken? No. What about her family? No, they didn't know either. Okay, and that raises the ethics issue in medical profession. 我们到目前为止学过哪些课是跟医学伦理有关系的？堕胎 abortion, right? What about the other one in book 5? 安乐死, yes. And this one is about asking permission. If I'm a doctor and I'm going to use your cells, do I have to ask you for your permission? Of course, it's a common sense, right? But maybe it's not always like that. So, take on your worksheet. We're moving on to a very difficult recording with a very fast speaking speed and different accents, okay? And I want you to try to catch the answers in this recording. Now, here are 11 questions. Okay, we should be able to cover the first 7 of them. Okay, would you please read each question for me? Question 1, go. In what were Henrietta's family fighting for a say? Okay, fight for a say 就是争取决定权，争取话语权。Okay, question 2. 好，这个字叫 gynecologist， 妇科医生。Everybody go, gynecologist. Yeah, so it appears very quickly. If you can catch his name, quickly write it down. Okay, question 3. Why? Yeah, if you are admitted to hospital, you are sent to hospital. Okay, what was the reason that she first got sent to the hospital? Question 4. According to Henrietta's gynecologist, what's special about Henrietta's symptoms? Oh, this one is a little bit tricky. Question 5. Who is George Guy? What do you know about him? Write down anything you can catch about this person. Question 6. How HeLa cells have benefited medical science. Give examples. Yeah, write down any examples that is mentioned in the recording. Last one, HeLa cells. HeLa cells had been used for 25 years for research before Henrietta's family found out about it. How was this possible? Explain why it happened. Okay, so we are doing these 7 questions because of the time limit. So let's listen to this very difficult recording on BBC Sounds. How about one more? Read question 8. Everybody go. Why did the research team track down Henrietta's family after 25 years of research? How about finish reading them, everybody? Number 9. What was the first thing Henrietta's children did after finding out that their mom's cells were still alive? Number 10. In one part,
Henrietta's son mentioned that if his mother were a white woman, things would have been different. How different? Last one. Which date was Henrietta Lacks due? Yeah, okay, sanction 就是批准的意思。那上面有 vocabulary 有3个单字，对不对？画底线的单字是你会在答案里面听到的单字哦。那第一个叫 abdominal， 下腹部，跟我念一遍 abdominal。所以你下腹部痛就是 you have abdominal pain，OK？、那什么东西是遗传的？遗传这个字叫 hereditary，go。Hereditary， 呀、再来 ，if you are entitled to something， 代表你有权可以继承什么东西，你有资格可以拿到什么东西。Everybody repeat entitled。呀、那它的用法是 be entitled to。OK， let's start listening to this different
BBC.
Hello and welcome to Witness with me, Farhana Haider, and today we go back to 1951 and the beginnings of a breakthrough in the biotech industry. It all started when a poor African-American woman called Henrietta Lacks first went to Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. She was suffering from cancer, and cells taken from her body during her treatment would go on to revolutionize medical science. Henrietta Lacks was born in 1920 in Virginia. By 1951, she was the mother of 5 children and living in Baltimore. Her cells have gone on to become one of the most important tools in medicine, and for decades, Henrietta Lacks' family have been fighting for a say in how those cells are used.
I said, "You're working on her cells?" And he said, "Yeah." He says, "Her cells are still alive." And I was just truly amazed.
I've never seen anything that looked like it, and I don't think I've seen anything that looked like it since. So it was a very special, different kind of what turned out to be a tumor.
Dr. Howard Jones was a gynecologist at Johns Hopkins Hospital in 1951 and treated Henrietta Lacks when she arrived with unexplained bleeding and abdominal pain. Here he is speaking to the BBC in 1997.
She had some intermenstrual spotting and bleeding, which is a sign of cancer, but it can be a sign of other things too. But on examination of the cervix by the eye with a suitable instrument, I was extremely impressed, and I can see that lesion today because it was not like an ordinary cancer. This was different. This didn't look like cancer. It was purple, and it bled very easily on touching.
The tumour did not respond well to treatment, and Henrietta Lacks died of cervical cancer in October 1951. She was just 31 years old. The cells from some of Lacks' tumour were kept by the cancer unit at Johns Hopkins Hospital by researcher George Guy, who found that they could be grown indefinitely. Before this, cells cultured for laboratory studies would only survive for a few days. He gave the cell line the name HeLa, after the first 2 initials of Henrietta Lacks' first and last name. Sir John Byrne is Professor of Genetics at Newcastle University.
Dr. Guy was a dedicated scientist who was trying to develop cells that would grow indefinitely, and he was using cells from tumours because the critical feature of a cancer cell is that it's overcome the built-in controls which would normally cause it to stop growing once it had been instructed to do so. And what happened with the HeLa cells was that they set them off in culture, and within a matter of hours they were growing prolifically, and this was quite stunning.
And why is that so important? The fact that they could keep reproducing, how has that benefited medical science?
Well, there are many situations where we need to be able to study tissues or pathogens in the laboratory. The most classic example, of course, being the making of the polio vaccine, that in order to develop that vaccine, it was necessary to grow the polio virus, and that required human cells, and these HeLa cells proved the perfect base for that experiment, so that it allowed the polio researchers to actually grow the virus and develop the vaccine that would save millions.
HeLa cells became world famous. For the first time, anything could be tested on living human cells. Not only did they lead to the development of the polio vaccine and countless medical treatments, they were also used by cosmetic companies who bought millions of HeLa cells to test for possible side effects in their new products. Ultimately, billions of dollars worth of products were tested using HeLa cells. All of this was done without the knowledge of Henrietta Lacks' family.
In the 1940s and 50s, and indeed for many years thereafter, it was considered normal that tissues, for example, a cancer cell or cancer tumour which had been removed by surgeons, was abandoned, this is the technical legal term, by the patient. And so it was not considered necessary to ask permission to use tissue samples in a research setting once the person had undergone the operation. And it wasn't until the 90s that it became clear that it was necessary to actually obtain a person's permission if their tissue was to be used in research beyond the immediate care of their illness.
In 1973, the Lacks family learnt for the first time that Henrietta's cells were still alive. A team of geneticists set out to track down the remaining members of the Lacks family and found 4 of her children still living in Baltimore. Here they are talking to the BBC in 1997.
They wanted to do this genetic research to find out whether any of the kids carried the same gene that she carried or whatever. So they wanted blood, so they came and they asked permission to draw blood from her children.
The doctor and the nurse came to the house and all of us there. The blood test they did on, they took blood tests from each one of my mother's kids, and they told us that they just tested to see if what my mother had was hereditary.
I said, "You're working on her cells?" And he said, "Yeah." He said her cells are still alive. And I was just truly amazed. And he said he'd been working on them for years.
And it like took us by surprise. We never knew this. And there's another thing that got me upset with him, like, is there anything else I don't know?
When the Lacks family found out what was being done with their mother's cells, they decided to approach lawyers to see if they were entitled to any of the money from the biotech industry.
From my research, I found out that they selling her cells all over the world, and I just wanted to find out who is making money off my mother's cell. I was kind of angry about it, or mad about it in a way, because it was something that no one knew about. We just want to make them aware of who she was. The reason why I think they're not trying to acknowledge is because she's black. I think it was the other way around. If she's a white female, I think they would have been acknowledged and they would know who she is right now.
Henrietta's family had no luck regarding compensation. Their mother had died too long ago. But they could fight for control of their mother's cells, so they decided to start a campaign to recognise Henrietta's contribution to medical science. Morehouse College in Atlanta is one of the oldest black universities in America. On the 45th anniversary of Henrietta Lacks' death, it honoured her and her family.
The city of Atlanta acknowledges the contributions of Henrietta Lacks for advancing the medical and scientific efforts for cancer, polio, and many other diseases, and on behalf of the citizens of Atlanta, hereby proclaim October 11th as Henrietta Lacks Day in our city. Signed, William Campbell.
How much has Henrietta Lacks done for science in her death?
Although it was an unwitting contribution, Henrietta gave her life for medical science, and her contribution has been enormous because the cells that cost her her life have proved to be the basis of literally tens of thousands of medical research papers around the world. And by one count, by 2009, 60,000 research articles reaching into every corner of biological science had been published using these cells. So it's rather like saying exactly how important was the test tube. It was just part of the process, a crucial element of biological sciences in the second half of the 20th century.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah,
as a result of the campaign by her family, Henrietta Lacks has become a scientific heroine. Her story was made famous by a 2010 bestseller, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, by Rebecca Sloot. And in August 2013, the Lacks family were granted some control over scientists' access to Henrietta Lacks' cell's DNA code. The family will also receive acknowledgement in the resulting studies. That's it for this edition of Witness, with me, Farhana Haider, on the BBC World Service.
好，那所以说 后来他们家人啊，在经过这个刚刚那个 Rebecca Scoot 的协助之下，还就是他们已经可以决定这个细胞要用在什么用途了。哦，那之后呢，还会每年开研讨会，然后邀请他的子孙，就是孙女，还有孙子来参加这样子。好，那因为这堂课到这边，等一下你们要答案的话，一个人来拍，然后再传给大家就好了。哦，我们没有时间讨论。那大家翻过来哦，看这个 summary practice。因为这个礼拜、上礼拜跟这礼拜周末刚好就是生科系跟医学系的这个模拟面试，那我刚好也是用这个准备这个模拟面试用这个当题材哦。那模拟面试如果有考英文的关卡，通常他会这样考的，他会说给你一篇文章，然后要你比如说read this article for 1 minute and then you summarize on your own. Prepare how to summarize this article for 30 seconds and then summarize it within 1 minute. And here I prepared 4 passages. 刚刚发下去，事实上我准备5篇，但是我知道今天时间会不够，所以我印出4篇。第5篇就是扫这个 QR code。那第5篇这个 QR code 呢，大家扫进去是扫到我的 Facebook 的页面，然后我有做笔记。第5篇呢非常长，是4面，这样一篇4面，所以它的 summary 的难度就是这样子。越难就是它给你越长的文章，然后比如说很长，他说3分钟。给你这样一整张，然后叫你 summary， 叫你 summarize， 那这就很难的，因为这有一整张可能有一半都是废话，你必须要很精准能够掌握资讯，然后还可以 summarize 出它最精华的。这就是我们现在这个新时代的人面临的挑战嘛。我们现在是住在资讯爆炸的时代，所以 whether you are able to control or manage the information very precisely, correctly, then you are the winner, right? 好，那现在这4篇呢，大家可以回家自己试试看做 summary， 然后然后还有大家看一下我的这学习单哈。第2点，第3点，第4点 ，starting from passage 2, make sure your summary includes the new info that is not included in the previous passages。所以你做完第1篇之后，你开始读第2篇的时候呢，你就可以像我自己在家里，我自己先练习过1遍。那我在做第1篇的时候，这个是第5篇。第1篇的时候啊，就是先 take notes，summarize 一段就是写1句话在旁边，这样3句话，这一篇就完成了。但是在读第2篇的时候，发现橘色的地方就是第1篇没有提到的，那你就专门讲那些点。然后再来第3篇哪些点是前面2篇没有讲到的，再来第4篇最难。因为第4篇讲了很多人的名字，还有 work 的名字，像这种 summary 最难，因为那些名字都是你没办法记住，然后你没办法用自己的话讲，所以你就要用 briefly. Also, this article mentions several words that is related to HeLa cells, and they are. 这时候教授在你面前，可是因为这些都是专有名词 ，they are on paragraph 1. You can refer. 这样子。好了，那这一堂课到这边。一个人来前面
教处广播，请高3各班学艺鼓掌。现在立刻至教处书组领取模拟考注意事项单。重复广播，请现在高3